if you could go back right now, knowing everything that you know, and you had the chance to have a conversation with yourself in that moment where the fear was at its highest, how would have you showed up? Would it have been just being there? Would it have been saying something specifically that may have helped?
What a beautiful question. My first thought would be, there's not much saying needed in that moment. If I could go back to that room, I have a crystal clear picture of the room and the moment when I needed it the most. I would go back to the ICU, intensive care unit, because going through this is one thing. Doing it mostly isolated from people is a whole different thing. That was the biggest challenge, honestly. It was pandemic, and my immune system was so low that only one person at a time could come visit me. That was my brother, but he couldn't be there the whole day, and because of the pandemic, they had time restrictions. So there were moments where I was just in so much pain, and there was no one. It was just a white room and nobody there. In that moment, I would go back, if I could go back now, and just sit. And honestly, even encourage him to vent, to let it out. That is something, my brother is such a legend. Because at some point he said, Axel, I want you to complain. I want you to let your anger out, to scream, whatever, let it out. That was exactly what I needed in that moment, to really let it out. Just for a couple of moments. So I wouldn't give him a massive pep talk. I would, with what I know now, I would go back, be there, and if possible, encourage him to feel what he wants to feel, and to tell me what he wants to do with his time, because I had so much time. I wish I would have used it a bit more intentionally, like learning a language or something, like something you've always wanted to do, and now you have the opportunity to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually brought that up about encouraging him to feel what he needed to feel, because when I was reading the early part of your book, and I've heard you speak about the Japanese farmer.
Chinese farmer.
Chinese farmer.
Yeah.
And I'll get you to share that story. But something that I was kind of reflecting on was I appreciated the idea of not labeling an event as either good or bad. But what I was trying to reconcile, my mind was wrestling with, was when something happens that leaves us feeling sad or frustrated or angry. It seems to me that it's helpful to experience those emotions and not deny them.
100,000%.
And so when I was reading that story, I was thinking, I wonder if some people hear this idea of, okay, an event is neither good nor bad, maintain this kind of neutrality, that maybe they confuse that with numbness, not experiencing the full spectrum of emotions. But what I'm hearing is that two things can be true. You can experience the emotions, and the event can neither be good or bad.
100%. So grateful that you bring this up. I told you, looking back, that was one of the best things I've done. Expressing how I truly feel. And then afterwards, that's the empowerment part. After you expressed it, after you really felt it, now what? And that's when, the Chinese farmer comes into play, like reframing it, because you don't want to stay in that emotion, but you also want to express it. So, but before you can do that, you need to feel what needs to be felt.
Not deny it.
Not deny it. Like when my grandma died, that was one of those moments. I'm really grateful I took time to grieve, to feel, to process it. But then what? Then it's about reframing it. Then it's about giving it positive meaning. During that time, I was so inspired by Viktor Frankl and his story. And just having that role model, gave me the hope, the perspective I needed. So to add to what you just said, I would bring a couple of books to read. And things for him that enable him to shift his perspective out of like me. This is why me, to let's just open up the space for what do you want to do with the time? What could be good about the situation? What is unique about the situation?
So leaving some possibility.
Some possibility, yeah. 100%. I think it would have been too early to like, you need to do 10 push-ups tomorrow and like run a mile and like, no. And my brother, I'm so grateful we have this conversation, because I don't think I give him enough credits for it. He really did all of the things perfectly. Like I remember it for the rest of my life. He's like, scream, I want to hear you like process it. This is horrible. Process it. And I was screaming and he was in the room and he's like, yeah. And then at the same time, he also knew when it was time to say like, okay, let's set some goals here.
What's his vocation? Or was this just coming to him intuitively? Or
I mean, I'd love to ask him. He has been following my content and personal development for quite some time. He listens to all of my podcast episodes.
So he's reminding you of the things that
yes. You know, he was like a mentor and reminding me of my own, you know, teachings and to walk my talk. And at the same time, right now he works in, I don't know what the exact term is, but he works with a lot of people who have some sort of disabilities and need help in their day-to-day life. People who, you know, have MS, for example, and they need support. He goes into the families and sees, how can I support? So he's somewhat used to those.
Working with people that are experiencing some big challenges.
Exactly. And yeah, literally he saved my life with those very simple but profound interventions.
So what would those books be, if you were to recommend them?
Man's Search for Meaning, 100,000% by Viktor Frankl. I think that's a brilliant book. I wanna my own book now. Maybe this is happening for you, not to you. Another book that I think everybody should. David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me. There's an entire chapter about a tough nurse, and she reminds me a little bit of David Goggins. She triggered the hell out of me during the hospital time, but she came to the right time when I needed it. So I would first make him read some, you know, more hopeful books, but then also there is a time when you need to shift, and there is also space for some people like Goggins who push you a little, who trigger you a little. And this military nurse, I don't know if you remember the chapter, it's one of my favorite chapters of the book. This military nurse comes into the room. She speaks to my brother, and my brother was everybody's darling. You know, in the hospital, everybody loved my brother because he's a sweetheart. He's one of the kindest people you can imagine. Very charming, very good looking. So everybody loved him, including this nurse who was actually working for the military, but then they have to volunteer in hospitals, or that's part of their training. So she came into the room, she spoke to my brother before, and he's a very proud brother, like here's his Instagram and look at how he looked like and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, interesting. Walks into the room and gives me a bit of tough love. She's like, oh, your brother showed me pictures from before this. You looked incredible. You had six-pack, and I'm just wondering, how did you do this? At that time, I can't walk. My first round of chemo has just started. I can't even go to the toilet by myself. Like, I'm pooping in my bed. That's how bad it was. Okay? And she asks me about my six-pack. And I'm like, well, I did CrossFit, you know, I did And she's like, be more specific. Like, what did you do? I'm like, well, I did squats. I did toes to bar. And she's like, okay, can you do it now? I'm like, what a stupid question. No. And I would get triggered, but I understood where she was going. She's like, okay, you can't do squats. If you're coaching someone who can't do squats, what would you tell them? Tell them like, okay, if you can't do a squats, how about maybe a glute bridge? And she's like, interesting. Can you do a glute bridge? And she knew I could because that was my way of going to the toilet. She's like, okay, well, how about you do some glute bridges? You could do that, right? And it would help you to get better. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, do you want to get out of here? Do you want to get healthy? Do you want to be able to go to the, out of this ICU place? And it's a horrible place. Like, you don't never want to end up intensive care unit. It's wild. The things, the people, the situations you see or hear in my case. I was like, yeah, of course I want to. She's like, okay, well, then you have to do those things. And then she moved on to, well, you can't do toes to bar, you can't do sit-ups, but can you pull yourself, the hospital beds have those, I don't know if there's a name, but it's like a string attached. You pull yourself up. She's like, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, I do that multiple times per day. She's like, okay, do it 10 times more often. So she gave me some Goggins love, and I needed it. I was triggered in the moment. I hated her in the moment. Now, if that nurse is watching, I love you. Thank you so much for triggering me. Because then the next day I was like, okay, let's just challenge myself. Let's just try to stand for 5 seconds. And you will see a video somewhere here where there was a nurse holding me. 5 seconds, sit down. I was exhausted. Okay, can I do 10 seconds the next day? And I truly believe this is what actually made the difference. Why I could recover so fast. Just this progressive overload, from going to the gym. Just like a little bit more today, a little bit more. Without that nurse and without my brother also then pushing me. And at that time, there was space inside of me. I was somewhat more stable than before. Before it was like pure survival, get me into a safe hospital. When I had time to settle and to start processing it, then it was about empowerment and reframing it.
And hope, I imagine.
Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my brother and I, we celebrated getting out of this ICU, intensive care unit, like we just won the World Cup. Because it was painful for me. There were people screaming, yelling, my brother had to wear this protective outfit every single time.
Because it was during COVID.
Yeah. It was a pain in the ass. When I was able to go back to, I just call it normal station. I don't know if there's a,
general ward or something.
Yeah, whatever. To just experience a bit of a normal life. Both for me and my brother, that was already like, wow. And that's when I started seeing how all of this could happen for me. The psychological pain was greater than the physical pain during that time. I went through chemotherapy. It was challenging for sure, but the psychological part was way more challenging. Shifting it from a victim mindset to a creator mindset was way harder. And it started then when I realized, okay, even right now, there is something good about this situation. There is beauty in it. All of the sudden, I had time to watch all of my favorite tennis matches that I never had time to watch. I had this massive privilege to see very early in my life who are the people that really unconditionally love me. Who's showing up right now? Like the love from my brother, from my sister, from my family, from Mari was just, you'll never forget that feeling. I get goosebumps when I just think about that. You'll never forget that. That made my life so rich. Like forever I know, like this is true love. Like I experienced true love. And I also started seeing, I was sharing a lot on Instagram during that time, just tiny bits, like this is how I'm doing, this is how I make progress. Today I walked my first step again. Today I went to the toilet by myself. And and those things started to feel really, really good. You know, sharing the progress, and other people would tell me like, this is so inspiring. So slowly but surely, I could see how this could potentially happen for me. But it took a year or two to fully come back to full power. And now I can connect the dots. And I think it's important that we speak about that.
I recently ran my full labs through Function Health, and I have to say the results were eye-opening. Turns out my ApoB was higher than ideal, probably thanks to a little too much coconut yogurt. I also found out I was slightly low in copper, something that I would have never suspected without testing. On the flip side, my biological age came back 13.3 years younger than my actual age, a calculation based on the work of aging researcher Dr. Morgan Levine. So all in all, I've got a few tweaks to make to optimize my lipids and nutrient status, but overall my blood work says I'm doing pretty well. That's what I love about Function. You get access to over 160 biomarkers covering everything from hormones and inflammation to nutrients, toxins, cardiovascular risk, and more. And all your results are housed in one beautiful platform, all tracked over time. Once you get your results, you can make informed changes before small issues become big ones. To get started, head to functionhealth.com/Simon Hill. The first 1,000 people get a $100 credit toward their membership. That's functionhealth.com/Simon Hill.